Ready? Fight!
Great talk about Anthony Richardson. Um, you know, we'll go in depth about specific players throughout the off season, especially as injuries happen. The draft is happening in 2 weekends, I believe. Really excited for that. I'm gonna be on vacation when that happens. That's gonna be amazing. Um,
That's even better though. You can just
I know.
vacation and that at the same time.
Oh, going to a beachside bar. Oh, while the draft's on. All right. Anyways, so now we're gonna get into our next segment. Who are we high on? And I know what you're thinking. We're talking about NFL players. No funny business here. So I think Caleb, the most excited about this segment, the creator, he's gonna start us off. I imagine we're gonna be talking about some draft prospects a little bit, but get us started with who you are high on.
All right. Well, I wanted to do Josh Downs because I love Josh Downs. So, I'm not going to talk about him, but I love him. Kind of to segment off
Just crapped on
Anthony
Anthony
Richardson there.
Richardson, yeah.
I know, but I love Josh Downs. His future, where he could potentially go. He's so young, but he's just incredible talent. But anyways, the actual person I'm going to talk about, because I really kind of want to target some more buy lows, because somebody like Downs is people still are pretty high on him, so he's hard to acquire. But it's Cedric Tillman, who I got after Mr. Samuel here. He traded him to me. I mean, I probably got fleeced in that deal, but I am high on Cedric Tillman. I love him. So is he. He loves him as well, and that's why he was a little pricier to acquire. But who is based on player profile? Pull it up right now. You'll see who he's comped to, and it is Mr. Nico Collins, baby. All right. I mean, look at it yourself. That is who his number one comp is. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, not only from an athletic perspective, but he's also kind of looking like he has kind of a similar career arc, right? Like when we look at Nico Collins, he was a great player, but didn't have that opportunity because of lack of QB play. It's exactly what we're dealing with right here. And with the player with the same athletic score as him, we're looking at a guy that could potentially have an upgrade at QB. I mean, we have Joe Flacco, who took the Browns to the playoffs not too long ago. And he can definitely sling it out there. But I'm hoping that they view him as a foundational piece of the team. It's unfortunate that, after week 9, he had that concussion. I think, they just didn't see their team as a contender, so they didn't want to push him back out there because he never really ended up returning. But there was no pressure to really contend, so there was no reason to risk your top end players, which makes me kind of puts confidence in the player to me from the Browns coaching staff looking at him as a player they don't want to hurt. They want to keep him healthy moving into the next season. So to me, that shows that they have confidence in him and they want to build around a player like that with that skill set. But he had his mini breakout, as I like to call it, from weeks 7 to 9. Very small sample size, but we saw what that potential could be, right? After Amari Cooper left that team, man, he was averaging almost 11 targets a game, putting up over 22 points per game in that series. And then unfortunately, he got that concussion. But in that span, man, he was hot. Like he was doing awesome, and he was a player that people were like, oh crap, like who is this, right? But that right there shows you that what his potential could be. You really see it if you really study his film. He's a play through contact type of guy. He gets open. He's contested catch. He does everything you want, and they were utilizing that, and they saw that, and they wanted to take advantage of that. Everyone's really sure, right, on Jerry Jeudy being that wide receiver one. Everybody in fantasy football has a small memory, a short memory, so they don't remember what we saw from Cedric Tillman, but Jerry Jeudy is what they remember, right? He had that career game. He did awesome, and I think Jerry Jeudy will be one of the focal points of this offense moving forward. But Jerry Jeudy, has been in the league much longer, and we haven't really seen this. And I truly think that wide receiver one in that team is up in the air. And I think it could be Tillman because that's who the team was going to right before he got hurt. And I think at this price that you can acquire him at, I think it's worth it. It's it's concerning QB room, but Flacco might be able to make the most out of that. Who knows? They might even draft a quarterback there early on in the NFL draft, and who knows? It's just we don't know for certain. People are trying to think or believe it's Jerry Jeudy, and that's why I think you could probably get Tillman pretty cheap. Right now he's wide receiver 59 on keep trade cut. He's really down there. You can get him for a late second and potentially an early third, and he's going around the 14th round in startups. So it's like you can tag him on later on in your draft if you have a startup coming up, and just you can see where he's how many players out there are comped to Nico Collins, right? It's like you just got to get him at a good situation with a good quarterback, and the sky's the limit for him. I mean, you can go out there, similar value players on keep trade cut, or Calvin Ridley, Coker. Everybody's high on Coker, Rashad White, and Cade Otton, right? It's like you look at some of these players, right? Rashad White, Bucky Irving's there. Go ahead and trade. I'll give Rashad White any day for some Cedric Tillman. That upside. Think about it, like wide receivers hold a lot more value going on. They age out more gracefully in the league. If you can, trade a player like Rashad White, running back, that doesn't have potentially as much tread for their NFL career as some of these wide receivers, that would be, I think, a fantastic trade. But yeah, I mean, he's cheap and he has got a super high upside at just age 24, and I'm really excited to see where his career goes, and if we can get some competent quarterback play. Because if it's Deshaun Watson, forget everything I just said, because do
It's
not
not gonna
buy
be
him.
Watson. You don't gotta
I
worry
know,
about that.
but
No way.
yeah, so that's my take on him. I don't know. What do you guys have any quick comments on that?
Yeah, I have just one. I get the Nico Collins comp. He's definitely a big athletic guy, ex receiver type. But I think actually when he was coming out of college, a lot of people comped him more actually to Cortland Sutton, which I think is hilarious considering his teammate is now Jerry Jeudy.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, definitely depends on the QB play. I don't think they're getting a QB this year. At least no one that is Cam Ward. I'm pretty set on Cam Ward going to the Titans. I think
yeah,
everyone is
yeah. I
pretty
mean, if that
understanding of
happens, they're
that.
probably
And
they
and
they
that's
probably
the
don't
only
want Shador,
upgrade.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's the only upgrade.
yeah.
That would really help. So
That's
maybe in a year's time, if they get like an actual veteran of some sorts. Um, but even next year, the QB class is a little iffy.
assuming the
So,
quarterback is Flacco, though. How do you feel about him?
Flacco's
Flacco, I
40.
don't know. He's 40. He
Like
didn't
He was
perform that
38.
great,
He
even
was
on the
30
Colts,
a couple of years ago, right, when they took him
though.
to the play.
Like Anthony Richardson got benched for Joe Flacco, and then they realized Joe Flacco was still that cheeks that they still wanted to play Anthony Richardson again. They
I
took
mean, but
everything
if
they
if
said back.
if you can protect him, give him time to throw. I mean, he's one of the better quarterbacks. I mean, that's why these teams are still willing to hold on to him.
I
He can do.
I don't know. I would have loved to see Cedric with Jameis Winston,
Of
Yeah, I
way
course.
mean,
way more. But
I
Well,
know.
that's
we
when
don't
he
get to see
was.
that, unfortunately.
That's when he was
That's
good.
that's when he was
Exactly.
good. It is
When
unfortunate he
the
And
got
he
that
got
concussion, right?
injured.
But
when the
Hmm.
passing volume was as high as it could possibly be, he thrived. And I'm gonna say something nice
mhm.
about Cedric Tillman and his value. So this is like Cedric Tillman is probably gonna be valued about what he is now for the next couple of years going forward. He's shown he has the capability to be at least a two on a team, like a low end two. Um, and what I so he is a good value right now. Like getting him now is a great idea. Uh, but my issue is target competition. So while I don't necessarily agree with the comp of Nico Cedric Tillman. He came from Tennessee, right?
Yes.
Sam?
Yeah.
So that like with Cedric Tillman and Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, theoretically they could even draft Travis Hunter. The wide receiver room would start to look a little bit more like Houston did last year. And while every Houston receiver got hurt, the um, going into the year, you really didn't know who was going to get a bulk of the targets. 45% said Nico was going to get the bulk, 20% said Tank, and whatever 35% said Diggs. So that's kind of how I see him. I don't see him as a potential star, a potential number one, and so yeah, just really good player to trade for now, but I don't see the huge upside on him. All right, great players, Caleb picking Cedric Tillman. lots of possibilities for him and a really good value right now. Sam, why don't you give your sleeper slash guy you're high on?
Sure. The way I kind of viewed this, I was looking at guys who are incredibly low, and if given a little bit of development, they'll definitely increase in value. And I think I'm gonna stick with the wide receiver here. And this guy, he's an elite separator. He just can't catch the ball for his damn life, and that is Dontayvion Wicks. Um, and this guy, I mean, even last year, he had 9 drops total. 8 drops was before the bye, and then one came after the bye.
When
And
was
you
their
really
bye?
wish this guy could do more. I think it was like middle of the season,
Okay.
um, of their season. So it was very heavy on the first half, obviously, being all drops. But the biggest takeaway is that this guy knows how to create space, and that is hard on an NFL field. He was second on PFF's grading for separation last year, as well as fourth on ESPN's rating of separation last year in the NFL. Out of all wide receivers, I mean, he is just so good at running routes. Um, truly special in that sense. If this guy just sticks on a jug machine and just figures out his hands, I feel like they have their wide receiver one in Dontayvion Wicks. He just hasn't rose to the occasion yet.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
I've a lot to say. Sorry, I'll go first. I want to be nice about how I feel about Dontayvion Wicks, but I can't because you talked about his drops. He had like more in the first half of the season than the second, or before the bye, after the bye. But what, context would give you is that Christian Watson coming off his ACL injury, Romeo Dobbs was out for a part of the game, so he was a main focal point with Jaden Reed, and even Jaden Reed was going crazy a lot of those games. I mean, even Jordan Love was out for a decent amount of those games, and that could obviously have something to do with the chemistry there, but he's not someone that, as a dynasty owner, I can trust as a stash on the team because um, while some players have recovered from fixing drops in their career, it's CD Lamb, it's um, anybody want to give me a
My
help
boy
with another one?
Jameson Williams.
Yeah, Jameson too. They had a lot more opportunity than Dontavian has been given early in his career. And the team's really focused on him. And when you have four wide receiver twos on your team with, Reed, Wicks, Watson, and Dobbs, and now they have Tucker Kraft coming
Yeah.
on, the target competition is immense. And I just can't believe in Dontavian's talent based on his value.
Yeah, and a lot of drafts. I mean, this wouldn't make any sense to me, but a lot of mock drafts have Emeka and Buka go into them. So, which is crazy to me.
Another wide receiver too.
I know
Mhm.
it's crazy to me, but crazier things have happened, and if they, I mean, I couldn't imagine. Everybody would be out on the Packers, right? If they do that, something like that. But or if they draft really any high end wide receiver like that. I mean, he's not super high end, but he's got some talent. But here's the thing. I look at it like the Packers were just a mess. And after week one, what is it, 1 and 2, 3, like the first couple of weeks of the season, Reed was like a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And
Number
I
one
think,
after 2 weeks,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and he was balling out there, and people were like, "This is it. This is what we projected. This. The fantasy community knew what was going to happen." And then look what happened. So I think after that, the Packers kind of had a weird year. They went out and acquired Josh Jacobs. They really wanted to establish that run game, right? So I think that was something that was kind of eating at the production overall. But yeah, I think there's too many mouths to feed there. The way that the offense is run, I'm totally out on Dontayvion Wicks. I think he's a great player. When we were, in the Packers games that we were watching together, I thought, when he got that ball, he was wide open. You're right, Sam. Like he was wide open. He's somebody that's special. He's a special talent. I think the Packers know that, but they also have a lot of special talents on their team, right? And I don't see someone really truly emerging there as a true wide receiver one. That's just not the way that offense is going right now. And I also don't think he's really built like that either. So I don't know. Did Mitch leave? I don't know what happened to
No, I'm
Yeah,
still here.
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're still there. Your camera turned off. But
Oops.
anyways, yeah, it is hard to truly believe in a guy like that. I mean, I wish he was like more like on a team like the Vikings, like where you have like Jordan Addison, right? A guy that can really thrive in that wide receiver 2 role. But as it is now, you can just, when they get to the red zone, it's like Romeo Dobbs. Like I don't know how many touchdowns on TV. Did he even have any? Like he must have had some, right? But like it's really, you never really see those big spike games from him, right? But yeah, I mean, he's a great talent,
Mhm.
but we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But as of now, it's hard to be in on any wide receiver on the back.
Yeah, and I actually agree with all of what you guys said. And Mitch, to your point, they're probably going to draft another wide receiver, which is weird because they keep talking about trying to get a wide receiver one.
Amari
And look,
Cooper's
this is
out
where
there.
I think. Well, this is where I think if Dontayvion Wicks cleans up his hands, he'll be a more reliable target for Jordan Love, who, by the way, had a pretty significant down year, as
Yeah,
well.
He was hurt.
So I think that also
Yeah,
contributed, right? I think that contributed especially.
agreed.
So maybe it is a hard hurdle for Dontayvion Wicks
I think you
to
can get him cheap.
overcome,
You can get him cheap
but
though. People
he's
are gonna
probably
sell him.
priced around like a 2027 late second.
Yeah, I
So if
think
that
people
tells you
will move
anything,
off.
it's just a coin toss, and who knows? I'd kind of rather have someone who has at least the statistics of like an elite separator to maybe become the guy there
How old
in
is he? Did you say?
Lambeau. He's 23.
Yeah, so he's still
Wow.
got
Hmm.
a lot of years in front of him, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch, who do you got?
Yep. So Caleb and Sam kind of went with players who they think are definitely undervalued and are later in the rankings. I kind of took a different approach. I was just kind of looking at like receiver, running back, quarterback, tight end, seeing how I feel, and then maybe getting a little more in depth after that. And I landed on T. Higgins. Given everything that's happened with Cincinnati over the offseason, their trials and tribulations with T, Jamar, and even Trey Hendrickson, who still doesn't have a contract, they wrapped up won a ton of money in Joe Burrow first, and now Jamar Chase. He's the guaranteed number one on the team. He's going to be there for the next, probably he's going to stay there forever until he wants to ring chase maybe and go somewhere else if they don't have the team. I imagine they're going to bring Trey Hendrickson back. I really don't have anything to go off of there other than the fact that why I basically picked T. Higgins was the fact that his deal is basically a 1 year deal with a Cincinnati option to keep him for and restructure his contract next year. Now, because they want to keep Trey Hendrickson, they're going to need to make their defense better to be competitive. Um, especially with while it's not like a great wide receiver draft, it there seems to be a ton in this second tier. They're gonna have to get someone else. Andre Yoshivas and Trey Burton, they were not capable number threes for a lot of the year. That's just my opinion, not statistics based, but T could easily be the number one on another team next year, and that's strictly why I have him as a why I'm high on him and why I think he's going to outperform his value in the future. Go.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, what do you mean as a number one on another team? He just signed a 4-year contract with the Bengals. Are you insinuating that they're gonna trade him? He's not gonna be the number one on the Bengals.
Yeah, in layman's terms, the contract was 4 years, but when I an expert looks on Twitter and reads another expert's contract lingo.
What the out?
Yeah, basically he's going to be making about I think it's around 30 this year, 30 million guaranteed. And then there's only 10 million guaranteed next year. Uh, so they would have to restructure next year no matter what, basically. And given the
Mm,
team's um, cheap nature historically and the fact that they have a ton of other players that are going to be needing extensions soon, especially if they want to be smart, which they usually aren't. I just really think that they could look in the draft for a rookie to fulfill T's role going forward.
mm.
And T could be the number one on, for example, the Panthers, who have a up and coming quarterback, or trying to think of another team quickly.
What, like
The Raiders. The Raiders are another great example.
yeah, or the Patriots or any team
Yeah.
like that. I mean, everybody needs high talent, but it's interesting. I have the complete opposite look at this because you're saying like he has the potential to move, right? I'm super high on him right now because of his current situation. I think he thrives as a number two in that Bengals offense. I mean, I have him on our dynasty, in our league. I love him. I think he's phenomenal in that high passing offense. He's going to thrive. I personally do not think he would thrive as a number one in another team. That is just my personal opinion. I think he has such a higher floor as in his current role with Jamar Chase drawing so much attention. I think he would struggle. Personally, I just don't see him having that high of an upside on a team where they're solely relying on him and he's getting all the defensive attention. I think they have an easier time shutting him down than like a Jamar Chase or something like that is what I'm trying to say. And that's why I have if they traded him, I'd actually be looking to sell him before the season started, right? Personally, because I think he will underperform. Right now, I'm not selling him. I'm not selling him at all. But if I could sell him, or if I had to sell him, I'd sell him for like early first, multiple for late first, because of where he's at right now and what he can produce. Um, but yeah, I mean, I look at it the opposite of you. I mean, I also don't think he's really because we're kind of talking about buy lows. I mean, he's going in the third round of startups. I don't know what you'd be willing to buy him for, right? I don't
Well, it's
know.
who
I
I'm
mean, it would
high
be
on.
oh, it's your
It's
high. I
buy
mean, yeah, I
low,
mean,
buy low is who I'm high on.
yeah, I mean, so you're high on him because you think he's gonna go somewhere else, or you're high on him just because of everything?
Yeah, there's track records of receivers, you know, being a clear number one on their team, but not necessarily being, maybe even a top 20 receiver in the NFL. Zay Flowers, Michael Pittman for a little while. They're, probably in the 30-ish range of receivers, and he's probably better than them. And they're consistently in the mid-teens well, not Michael Pittman anymore, but when Michael Pittman was that number one option, even before Josh Downs on the Colts, um,
Yeah,
he had
but
the
he's
he had
definitely
the
not the number
capabilities.
one. He's not the number one right now in his current situation.
Yeah, but just a player who's maybe not one of the top 10 best, but he could like there's 32 number one receivers on teams, so
You really think he could be a top what a top 12 fantasy player, like on his own, like you know what I mean, like as that true number one role.
yeah, you'd only go up as a number one.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I know it would make sense, right? Like if you're thinking, oh well, now if he goes to another team where there's no competition, he's gonna thrive, right? Now he doesn't have Jamar Chase limiting his ceiling, right? But I think Jamar Chase raises his floor, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah, unfortunately here I'd probably have to agree with Caleb. Having Jamar Chase on the opposite side of the field is probably one of the most beneficial things for any wide receiver, and it's probably why he likes staying there, honestly. I don't see T. Higgins as like a crazy one, just based on his separation. He's not really known as like a separation guy, but nor is he really like a Mike Evans either. He's more of a contested catch guy in red zone area.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's where he does his damage. And again, having Jamar Chase on the other side of the field, man, I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna get open.
Yeah, when they get to the red zone, it goes to him almost every time. And the defense knows it, and he still scores. He's that good. He can moss guys. He goes up there, he just dominates, right? Like, and that's why he is awesome, because the Bengals need to score all the time to stay in these games, and he's getting a lot of those looks. So
But I actually agree with Mitch here, where
Playing both
they could
sides.
change his contract, and I think the contract will play a big role in the future, just because I think the Bengals front office is just in shambles. I mean,
I think
I don't know why they kept pushing back, trying to extend Jamar Chase and T. Like, they could have had this offense way early on if they just paid for it, but they just kept waiting. So yeah, there's probably a good chance that if his contract gets restructured, or T's just not okay with his contract anymore, like, yeah, he's gonna request a trade, and who knows.
yeah, I think
But
he
I think
likes his
it's
spot.
definitely landing spot dependent too, because if he's with some QB who's just not as good as a passer as Joe Burrow, I automatically see that as a downgrade.
Did he ever request a trade? I don't think so, right? Or did he?
I
Okay.
think he did.
I think multiple times, yeah.
He
Okay.
did last year.
But then
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
he also wants to stay in
Yeah, I
Cincinnati,
thought
so
he
it's a
wanted, like,
little
his
confusing.
number one priority was that he wanted to stay, but he wants to get paid, right? And now that he's
Of course,
paid, I think
of
he'd be
course.
willing to stay there now long term. He wants to be with a team like the Bengals. You got Joe Burrow. I think he's really close with these guys, and
Until they franchise tag him again, that's the problem.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't even
not.
know based on like player rights and stuff. If I don't know, maybe they could again. I don't know.
I don't know
w-
I know
either, but I was ready to hear franchise tag over and over again for
I
T.
know they
Uh,
could again this year, but I think they couldn't do it again. I don't know now that there's contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
um,
yeah.
yeah, this isn't an A to B situation, but when the Colts and Peyton Manning had Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, you saw Reggie Wayne as the number two in the offense when when both of them were there, and then Marvin retired, and Reggie Wayne became clear number one, no questions asked. Not comparing their talent or anything, but just saying it's an example of something like that happening. The only one that could come to my mind in this short amount of time. Um, Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next week, probably. All right, bye.
Yeah.
Later.